All right, so today is the last day that I'll be focusing on internally rotated poses. Not the last day, I mean, as we go through these, I'm going to start in the flow classes weaving the externals and the internals together and just helping you to understand kind of the arc, how we use the understanding of anatomy and alignment to prepare for seated poses that can be really problematic on the body because they're weight bearing, gravity is pushing down. It's like you warm up the body via the hip openers so that you can eventually sit in meditation for a longer period of time. That's ultimately, if there was a goal to this practice, it's to prep for meditation. And but this week we're going to continue focusing on the internals. I'm going to be bringing them today into the flow. So we'll be doing Sun Salutes A and B. Then I will take the poses that we did on Tuesday's class, weave them into a standing sequence that'll lead then to some back bending poses, some internally rotated forward bends, and then Savasana. And then meditation, some Pranayama exercises, Nadi Shodhana, which I worked on with you on Monday, and then rest. And then we'll close it out with prayer, of course. And so that's what you can expect from today. All week, or the last 2 weeks, we've been talking about the way in which the hips move, either internally or externally, and really the 6 ways in which the femur itself can move in relationship to the pelvis. So you've got flexion, you've got extension, you've got the abduction, the adduction, internal, and then external. And that the hips themselves, and you can listen to this with much more nuance from Monday's class, but the muscle groups that we're focusing on are the quadriceps and the hip flexor group. There's 4 muscles in each. There's the hamstring group. There's the groins, the internal rotators, the adductors, the glutes, the external rotators, and the IT band. I was also inviting you to really look at the sacroiliac joint. That's, right here, it connects the sacrum at the very base of the spine, and it's like the shock absorber. And, but because of the natural curvature in the spine, very often there's a lot of compression in the sacroiliac joint. There's also a lot of issue in the piriformis muscle that's back here in the butt at the top of the hip. And if there's any compression over use of the piriformis muscle, which there is because we use the piriformis muscle in every movement that we do, so whether on the mat or in life, and when that muscle gets strained, it can put pressure on the on the sciatic nerve that runs from the lower back through the leg down into the foot. And anyone who've ever experienced sciatica knows how incredibly uncomfortable, painful, like sometimes a numb feeling, a bruised feeling, a radiating feeling down the leg itself. Yoga can both relieve these issues or it can exasperate it. And my hope in teaching you alignment is to give you some structural understanding so that you can understand your particular skeletal structure, muscle structure, understand the different parts of your body because one side's going to be a little different than the other, and accommodate to your body's needs so that you avoid compression. And with that said, if you took Tuesday's class, there's a chance that you may have awoke the next day and felt sore, a little bit soreness in your lower back. And it could be 2 things. One, you were still compressing, regardless of what I was saying. You were still kind of sinking in the poses, especially if we were holding them for too long or too long for your particular comfort. Or you woke up those muscles. Those muscles were inactive. You brought a lot of blood, a lot of energy to them, and they're kind of letting you know now that they exist. And so that's the kind of like Epsom salt bath soreness that goes away relatively quickly. The other kind of soreness where it just lingers and lingers means compression and then inflammation. Okay, so go ahead and sit up tall. All right, just want to make sure in the chat I'm seeing, I can barely see, but I think I'm seeing some mornings, some good mornings. So I'm assuming you're just saying hi to each other and not letting me know that you can't hear me. So sit up tall, close your eyes, spine is long, palms onto your lap, thumbs touching. So immediately in meditation, find that seat. Feel that impulse to slump. As I shared on Tuesday, the body has 206 bones. It has 600 muscles. It has 78 organs. The fascia connects everything, so we move as one unit with different functioning, different purposes. The yoga helps to expand and bring more blood into these different areas, creating more elasticity, purification, strength, tone, etc. But everything we do with the intention to sit without distraction and connect to source and who we really are, which is love. The practice of yoga helps us to decrease the tension so that we can show up more authentically with patience, with empathy, compassion, clarity, generosity. When we're contracted, we shut down. When we're expanded, it allows space for us just to be maybe a tad more kinder than we were prior to yoga. Place your palms into prayer. Calling in the God of your own unique understanding, we ask, may this practice be an opportunity to ground and stabilize within our body, to decrease effectively the accumulated tension that is stored within the hips and the lower back and the back muscles themselves, so that we can experience ourselves more expanded, more open, more present. And in that openness, we show up today and all days with more generosity, patience, acceptance, and love. We ask that as we do open ourselves to this moment, that we feel into our own divinity, and we allow for that divinity to radiate outward in all that we do, say, and create. We ask, may this practice be blessed. And then together we offer this blessing with one single Om. Take a deep breath in. And then release your hands. And you're going to come onto all fours. Fingers spread wide, toes curled under. Your wrists are in front of the shoulders here. The arms work themselves straight. Inhale, arch your back, and then press back into downward dog, keeping the knees bent. Look at your hands. You want to make sure your middle finger points straight towards the top of the mat, unless your wrists hurt. Then turn your hands slightly at an angle so the middle finger points towards either corner. That should take some of the pressure off the wrists. Try not to get in the habit of that for too long. I mean, months is fine, but eventually you want to start to turn the hands back again. Bend your elbows a little bit and press the elbows in towards each other. Then work the arms straight. With the knees bent, you want to imagine a block between your inner thighs, and you're going to spin the inner thighs back. Begin to straighten the legs, even if the heels are up off the floor. The impulse often to access the hamstrings is to collapse the sacrum. This releases the attachments, and it gives you the illusion of more flexibility. But what it also does is it collapses in our shoulders and puts compression on the spine. So you're actually going to draw your tailbone away from the kidney points, then descend the heels towards the ground if you can. Feeling into the hamstrings and into the calves. Take another deep breath and then walk your feet to your hands. Inhale, look up, hands to the hips, flat back to stand. You're going to come into Tadasana. So the feet press. I'm just going to take my sweatshirt off. Bend your knees a little bit. And you're going to, with the knees bent, the inner thighs are going to draw back. You can even put your hands onto your thighs, and you're going to roll your thighs in as you straighten the legs. So you can really feel into and experience your femurs, your thigh bones. The more that you can actually, like, what's the word? Is it palpate? Is that the word I'm looking for? I don't know if that's the word. But you feel into your body, kind of understanding your muscles. We can all have such an unusual relationship with our body based on conditioning and all sorts of other things. But the more that you can actually physically, like, feel into your body, the more you're going to start to understand the muscles and the bones and how they work in relationship with each other. So hands on your thighs, roll the thighs in, press the legs straight, grip your quads, and you can feel it. You can let the quads go limp, kind of use your hands, feel what that looks like. Your thighs should be more mobile. You can kind of bounce them a bit more. And then squeeze the quads and feel what the contracted quadriceps feel like. This is going to help to support the ligaments and the tendons that are around the kneecap themselves, as well as protect the hamstrings. Tailbone draws down. This will allow the frontal hip bones to lift up. So that's your internal rotation. Palms at the heart. Inhale, arms reach. Maintain the internal rotation even as you fold. Feel that spinning inward, fingertips onto the floor. Inhale, look up and lengthen. Exhale, bend your knees. Step back, top of a push-up, and hold. Keep your sternum forward. Put your knees down. Extend the toes back. And then slowly lower your whole body down onto the earth. Pressing into the palms. Inhale, lift your chest partway up. Elbows draw in, shoulder heads pull back. Exhale, chest down. Curl your toes under. And press back, downward facing dog. And breathe. So those of you who are dealing with any kind of wrist issues, I want to encourage you not to do chaturanga where you're supporting your weight on your wrists and on the balls of your feet. It's way too much pressure. Get comfortable putting the knees down and slowly building both the tricep strength as well as some stability in the wrists. Come back into a push-up position. Either put your knees down or lower chaturanga dandasana. Inhale, upward dog or cobra. And exhale, downward dog, and breathe. Tops of the thighs press back, heels descend. So try to remember some of the things that we worked on 2 weeks ago with Sun Salutations. Remembering the Ujjayi Pranayama, the drishti, the gaze, all of this designed to keep you more and more present. Thinking about the dual actions, the 3 pillars that we use in yoga for stability, the foot and ankle, the pelvic cavity, the shoulder girdle, making sure that those are stabilized before you push into your flexibility. Take a deep breath, stretch it back, and then walk your feet to your hands. Inhale, look up, lengthen. Exhale, fold. Inhale, come on up all the way, push into the feet, arms reach. And exhale, palms right at the heart. Inhale, breathe, gaze at the thumbs. Exhale, fold all the way forward. Relax your head and neck. Inhale, look up and lengthen. Exhale, step back, top of a push-up, either knees down or lower chaturanga. Inhale, upward dog or cobra. Exhale, downward dog, and breathe. At the end of the exhale, walk or jump your feet to your hands. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, fold. Inhale, press into the feet, quads lift, arms extend, look at the thumbs. And exhale, palms right at the heart. One more time. This time I'm going to decrease the instruction and increase the attention on the breath and on the drishti. So inhale, arms reach, look at the thumbs. Exhale, fold, trace the gaze down to the floor, look between the shins. Inhale, the gaze comes forward. Exhale, step back and lower chaturanga, the gaze remains forward. Inhale, upward dog or cobra, gaze at the sky. Exhale, downward dog. You gaze between the legs towards whatever's behind you. And then keep your gaze fixed. I don't choose to look at my navel in downward dog because that action is too much, it's too cramping on the neck, and it usually pushes my upper thoracic part of the spine towards the shoulders. Take a deep breath. Step your right foot forward, your back foot flat. Inhale, come up into warrior one. Hold. Hands onto the hips. So in internally rotated poses, you're heel to heel or wider. But you don't want to be heel arch. Too tight. It kind of crosses over into the pelvis. The outside edge of your back foot must be flat and the inner ankle lifts. How deep you go in this pose is determined by your ability to keep that back foot flat. As soon as you start to lift that back foot up, you've gone too deep in that front leg. You want to lift that inner ankle to create an arch. This is going to protect the knee joint. Then you begin your internal rotation. So that left hip and thigh rotate forward. And you can even take your hand into that crease. Use that hand to spin it so you see what that feels like. That action then draws your right hip back. Now we've got the sacroiliac joint to contend with. You want that to release the psoas. It'll pitch your torso forward and you'll naturally arch your back. So you've got to bring your torso back, take your tailbone into your body, and you're going to feel an increased stretch in the psoas muscle and in the hip flexors. Don't worry about that 90 degrees in that right leg. Bring your arms up over your head. Once you have the organization in your body, then you begin to bend your right knee a little bit deeper. The moment you begin to feel a collapse in the lower back or a pitch forward in the chest, you've gone too deep. And then you hold. As this muscle, this part of the body opens, you'll be able to eventually go deeper and deeper, but with integrity. Take a deep breath in, look up and touch your palms. Exhale, release. Both hands down, step it back, lower. Inhale, upward dog. And exhale, downward dog. Take a breath. Step your left foot forward, your back foot flat. Inhale, warrior one. Hold. So extend and lengthen that back leg. Inner ankle lifts. Right hand, you press it right into the very top of the thigh under the butt, and then spin that right femur forward. So you can imagine right now as the femur is spinning forward, that the greater trochanter that's rolling into the socket of the pelvis. is moving your hip towards the center point. The left hip pulls back. So another phrase would be is the hips move towards neutral. The tailbone now draws into the body. The lower belly, of course, the core muscles have to engage here to protect your back. The arms reach over your head. So remember, there's 20 back muscles on each side working. And so as you lift and extend the arms, you also want to let the shoulders pull down the back. You want your right rib cage rotating forward, dropping the frontal ribs, then bend the knee. Look up, touch your palms. Take a deep breath in. And exhale, both hands down. Step it back and lower. Inhale, upward dog. Exhale, downward dog. Take a breath. Keep the quads lifting. At the end of the exhale, walk or jump your feet to your hands. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, fold. Bend your knees. Inhale, arms reach. Utkatasana, chair pose. Tail in. Exhale to stand. Palms right at the heart. So now let's do Surya Namaskara B, but incorporate the drishti, incorporate the breath. Bend your knees. Inhale, reach. Exhale, fold. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, step or jump, Chaturanga Dandasana, lower. Inhale, upward dog. Exhale, downward dog. Right foot forward, back foot flat. Press into the feet, arms reach, bend the knee, look up and stretch. Exhale, both hands down. You step back, lower on the exhale. Inhale, upward dog. Exhale, downward dog. Same exhale, left foot forward, back foot flat. Inhale, come on up all the way. Plant the feet, tailbone in and reach. Exhale, both hands down. You step it back, lower. Inhale, upward dog. And exhale, downward dog. And breathe. So Surya Namaskara A and B are comprised of poses that are movement driven. These target more the gross musculature. They help to increase the circulation. They bring more heat into the body. That heat allows for that elasticity in the joints and in the connective tissue. It's purifying, and it sets us up for the standing poses to come so that you can hold those standing poses longer, safely. Take a deep breath, and then walk or jump your feet to your hands. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, fold. Bend your knees. Inhale, arms reach. Exhale to stand. And palms right at the heart. Let's do this one more time with more emphasis on the breath and on the gaze. Bend your knees. Inhale, gaze at the thumbs. Exhale, fold. Inhale, gaze forward. Exhale, step back. Lower chaturanga. See the tip of the nose and slightly forward. Inhale, upward dog. Look at the ceiling. Exhale, downward dog between the legs. Step your right foot forward, your back foot flat. Inhale, you trace the gaze all the way up until you see your thumbs. Exhale, both hands down. Go through the vinyasa and go to side 2 on your own. Hold downward dog when you get there. Step your right foot forward, stay on the ball of the back foot, come up onto your fingertips. Press back through that left heel, rotate your left heel forward, draw the sternum off the navel. You want that inner left thigh lifting upward as that outer left thigh rotates down. Take 2 deep breaths. Feel the hip bones pull inward towards each other. Exhale the left knee down, extend the left toes away. You're going to inhale, come into a low lunge, straightening the right leg a little, hands to the hips. You want to feel the pelvis rotate, the left moving forward, the right moving back, the belly pulling in, the front rib just dropping down. Draw that tailbone in. You can use your thumbs at your tailbone just remind your body to draw in. Be careful not to tuck, especially if you're hypermobile. Just experience just a little bit more of an opening of that lower back. Then bring your arms up over your head. Look up, interlace your fingers except for the index. Stretch the arms straight. So keep reaching through the back body and then begin to bend that right knee a little deeper without letting the back arch. Push into the right foot a lot. Exhale, both hands down onto the floor. Keep your left hand down, and you're going to inhale, bring your right arm straight up to the ceiling, allowing both shoulders to pull down the back. The sternum elongates off the navel. Look up towards the thumb and breathe. Try not to let your right knee pop open. The weight will often pull to the border side, the pinky toe side of the foot. You want to make sure the weight is even. You're pushing both into the heel and into the ball of the foot. Bend that right knee a little deeper if you can. And then exhale, both hands down. Curl your back toes under. Lift the kneecap up. Step back, downward facing dog. Step your left foot forward. Come up onto the fingertips. Remember, you can also use your blocks here. So I'm incorporating the poses that we did in the posture lab into a flow so that you can see the way in which we can take static asanas and weave them together via vinyasa to create a more rhythmic experience, but is still, I hope, just isolated and smart. I'm not linking a lot of poses together. In this case, it's just 3 on one side, but there's no exchange in rotations. Everything is staying internal. So back leg is straight, right hip forward, pull the sternum long. Take another deep breath in. Exhale, right knee down. Extend the right toes away from you. Pressing into your left foot. Inhale, come into a low lunge, but straighten the left leg a little bit so that the torso can become more elevated, and as a result, you can work Tadasana more in the pose. So if your knee is too bent, the hamstring is going to pull at the pelvis is going to collapse, and then the whole body will respond to that imbalance in the structure. Here, you maintain the integrity of the spine and pelvis. That right hip rotates forward. The tailbone draws in. Arms reach. Look up. Interlace your fingers, except the index, but do it the opposite way, so the awkward way that you did it from before. Bring the shoulders back, and then begin to bend your left knee a little bit. And then grow the pose. So try to elongate through the side waist. Exhale, both hands down. Keep your right hand either flat or on the fingertips or use a block. Bring your left arm straight up. Both shoulders pull down the back. The sternum pulls off the navel. Look up towards the left thumb and breathe. Bend the left knee a little bit deeper if you can. And then exhale, both hands down. Curl your back toes under, lift the knee, and then step back, downward facing dog. Step your right foot forward, stay on the ball of the back foot. Inhale, come up into crescent pose. Back leg is straight. In Warrior One, your back foot is flat. That automatically pulls that left hip back. There's way more freedom of that internal rotation when you're in Crescent. The balance becomes a little bit trickier. Tailbone draws in, arms up over your head. Interlace your fingers except for the index. Stretch. Keep the tail in, then bend the knee. Keep powering out that back leg so the thigh pushes into the hamstring. Feeling the hip flexors, especially the psoas muscle. You're going to really feel that in this pose, especially if you bend the knee just a tiny bit deeper. Then exhale, both hands down onto the ground. From here, you're going to step your back foot in about a foot. Make sure you're heel to heel. The right hip pulls back, the left hip rotates forward. So the inner left thigh, you can really feel the engagement. That inner left thigh pulls back, then begin to straighten the right leg. You can put your hands on blocks here as well if you'd like. You're going to stay up high on your fingertips or on the block. Get the wrists underneath the shoulders. Inhale, lengthen the chest. Draw the shoulders back. Pull the hips inward towards the midline. And now breathe into the hamstrings. You're trying to find right into that center hamstring. You want to grip your quads here. Take a deep breath. Walk your hands out more and begin to lower your chest, trying to move your chin towards the shin. That's how much length you want in your back body. Remembering that the hamstrings attach into the pelvis. Back muscles attach also into the pelvis. So the pelvis is always going to respond either tipping up or down, side to side. It's going to rotate or tilt depending on those attachments. So you want to find that extension in the spine. That's going to deepen the stretch in the hamstring. Even if you don't get your chin to the shin, it doesn't matter. It's more like try to get your head to the floor. That length, I don't mean literally, energetically. Inner left thigh, keep pulling it back. Okay, bend your knee. You're going to walk your hands back a little bit, come up onto the ball of the back foot, and step back into downward facing dog. Take a breath, notice just what one side of the body feels like compared to the other. Step your left foot forward, stay on the ball of the back foot. Inhale to crescent. Interlace your fingers except for the index. Do it the awkward way. Tail in. Don't worry about 90 degrees. It's more like what kind of a lift can you create in the pelvic girdle? All those muscles, all those attachments, the ligaments, the tendons. Knowing that the ligaments and the tendons themselves don't get as much blood flow. That means they're even more gristly, resistant. By pushing back into that right foot and rotating that right hip forward and pushing the thigh bone into the hamstring, you find that torque. And even if it's for 2 breaths, it brings so much prana, so much life force into those areas that are so constricted. Take a deep breath. Exhale, both hands down. Step your back foot in about a foot. That left hip pulls back. The inner right thigh rotates back. That rotates the right hip forward. Then you press the left leg straight. So you want to, the internal rotation is often determined by the placement of your kneecap. So if you just are kind of flaccid in the leg, the belly of the kneecap will often go towards the inside of the foot. What you want, bend the knee, turn that knee. So if I was to trace a line, it would go between the second and third toe. Then straighten the legs. Squeeze the quads. Inhale, look up and hold. And breathe. Just finding right, you're gonna, like if you just hang out and make little micro movements and then wait, you're gonna find that spot. It doesn't matter if you lay your chest onto your leg, it doesn't matter. It's that spot, that tightness in one of the hamstrings. And then you notice your reactivity towards it, the impulse to shift or go deeper or to change it rather than just be with it. Let the heat build, let the sensation build. And walk your hands forward. Keep that internal rotation, keep the contraction of the quads, and begin, if you can, to lower the chest just a little bit until you find that next edge. Maybe it's in the hamstrings, maybe it's in the hips. Inhale, look up, bend your knee a little bit, walk your hands slightly back, and then you're going to step back into downward dog. Take a moment here. And then walk your feet to your hands. Inhale, look up, separate your feet hips width apart. You're going to grab hold of the big toes by sliding the middle and the index finger between the big and the second toe, and then using your thumbs to hook. Bend your knees a little bit. Pretend there's a block between your upper thighs. Spin the inner thighs in. And then inhale, lengthen the spine, straighten the legs. And exhale, fold. Feeling into the hamstrings, into the attachments. Soften into the back. Release the neck. Inhale, look up. Release the toes and put your fingertips onto the floor in front of you, lengthening the spine. Make sure your wrists are under the shoulders. Bring your feet together. You can also put your hands onto blocks. Inhale, lift your right leg up. Pretend there's a wall behind your right foot. Drop your right hip. Push into that wall and then lengthen the top of the head forward, keeping the shoulders pulling away from the ears. The inner thighs on both legs, the left leg spin back. The right inner thigh actually spins up. So internally rotating. Belly lifts to support the lower back. And then release the right leg to meet the left. Inhale, look up. The left leg lifts. Make sure your bottom foot is straight. The inner thighs of both legs, the right is pulling back, the left is lifting up. The left foot pushes against an imaginary wall. The top of the head also extends and pushes into something imaginary. So you're just feeling the space created. The lower belly pulls in so you're not collapsing into the spine. Find a focal point. Grip your quads. And then lower your left leg to meet the right. Inhale, look up. Hands to the hips. Flat back to stand. Come into Tadasana. Take a breath. Palms at the heart. Inhale, arms reach. Exhale, fold. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, step or jump, chaturanga. Inhale, upward dog. Exhale, downward dog. Step your right foot forward, stay on the ball of the back foot. Inhale, come on up into crescent. Place your palms into prayer. You're going to take your left hand and put it on top of your right thigh. No, that's not right. Yeah, you can do that. Take your right hand and put it into the top of the thigh at the hip. And then begin to turn the torso a bit, pushing down onto your right hand. Then hook your left elbow to the outside of the knee. Continue letting your right knee bend and the right hip pull back. Slide the shoulder down a little bit. Roll the chest open. And then with your right hand, place that right palm on top of the left. Palms press. Back left thigh lifts. Look upward towards the ceiling if you can. Pull the sternum off the navel and breathe. Take a deep breath in. Some of you can take your left hand down to the floor, staying on your fingertips, and then straightening the right arm up to the ceiling. But as you're turning your body, remember we want to maintain the integrity of the sacrum. So you don't want your right hip and butt to pull forward. You want the twist to be happening more in the middle part of your spine, at the thoracic part of the spine in the center, not at the lumbar. Pull the chest forward. Take a deep breath. Exhale, both hands down. Step back into push-up position and lower. Inhale, upward dog. And exhale, downward dog. Take a breath. Step your left foot forward, stay on the ball of the back foot. Inhale to crescent. You're going to place your palms into prayer. Left hand goes into that crease between the top of the thigh, and you just press down into the femur. Right hand is on the leg. You turn your torso a bit. As you turn the torso, you can feel that right hip rotating forward along with the right rib cage. Hook your right elbow to the outside of the left knee, and then slide that shoulder down a bit. Keep that back leg straight. Then palms press. Push into the palms to open the chest so you're not revolving the pelvis. Although, of course, there's going to be a micro movement in there that's going to be revolving the pelvis. But you don't want to exaggerate that action as your spine is twisting. Second level, right hand down. Bring the left arm up. Look up if you can. Think about creating more space in the body by pulling the sternum off the navel. Take another deep breath. Exhale, both hands down. Step back into push-up position and lower. Inhale, upward dog. And exhale, downward dog. And breathe. Step your right foot forward, turn your back foot flat. Hold here. I'm going to get a block here. Right heel, left heel on the same line. Pressing down onto the bone right under the right big toe. I'm actually going to take my right hand and I'm going to put it high up into the top of the thigh. My thumb and my index finger spread apart. They press into the top of the femur, and then I pull that right hip back. As I pull the right hip back, though, I want to be aware, or I want you to be aware, not to roll and let the big toe side of the foot lift up. Anchor it, then straighten the leg. So the hips are aligned. Take your left hand and put it onto the block. You can keep your right hand onto that hip. And as you pull the right hip back, extend the chest forward, lift out of the left shoulder. Firm up the thighs. The inner left thigh pulls back. The inner right thigh also pulls back. Keep that right hip pulled back. The sacrum lays flat, the chest forward. I'm going to begin to open the chest from the outer right rib cage. Then the right arm comes up to the ceiling and look up. So we know that the sacrum and the neck have the most amount of mobility in the spinal column. The mid and the upper thoracic range is more limited. Therefore, the muscles are also more tight on either side of the spine. By isolating the lower back, keeping it stable, you have no choice but to begin to initiate that twist a little higher up. It won't feel very liberating. It'll actually feel like you're stuck, like you got nothing. Like if you just kind of cheat the hip a little bit, you can crank into the back. But that's where you can cause compression and strain. Take a deep breath and exhale, both hands down. Hold here. Put that block in front of you. Hands onto the block. Inhale, lengthen, and again, fold into that hamstring a bit. Relax your neck. It's also an inversion. Now, I'm spending a lot of time over the last couple weeks talking about the muscles, the bones, and I haven't really talked about the organs, nor will I really get too into it. But I will tell you that when you're twisting, you are stimulating into the various organs within the core of the body that include the liver, of which there's over 600 known responsibilities, excuse me, the gallbladder, the pancreas, the spleen. You're stimulating the kidney points, the stomach itself, the large and the small intestines. The increase of blood flow in those areas allow for any of the, for them to operate more optimally, and also to release some of the accumulated toxins that can form in our organs based on our environmental stressors or our diet. Inhale, look up. You're going to remove that block, bend your right knee a bit, come onto the ball of that left foot, and then you're going to step back, top of a push-up, and lower. Inhale, upward dog. And exhale, downward facing dog. Step your left foot forward, back foot flat. Put that block in place. Left hand up at the crease. Draw that hip back, straighten the left leg. Inhale, look up. Right hand onto the block. Careful about the hyperextension. So if you hyperextend, you make sure the elbow stays slightly bent or the knee stays slightly bent, and you grip the muscles above the joint. Sacrum lays flat, the chest extends. You rotate from the middle of the body, left arm up, look up, and deepen the breaths. Inner thighs pull back, quads engaged. From here, take a deep breath in, and then you're going to exhale, both hands down, put the block in front of the foot, Inhale, look up. Exhale, fold over your straight left leg. Just breathing into the hamstring. It's also an inversion. This means that the blood is flowing to the top of the head. It's taking the pressure off the heart. This feeds into the pituitary, the pineal glands. It becomes more restorative, more, balancing on the central nervous system. Inhale, look up, bend your left knee. Now from here, move the block, hands on the floor. You're going to actually step your right foot to meet the left and hold. Inhale, look up. Put that block back again. You're going to lift your right leg up off the floor. This time, point the foot, drop the hip. I'm going to move the block over a little bit so that move the block to the right so that your right hand is underneath that right shoulder and you're slightly elevated, chest forward, and then left hand at the left hip. Draw that left hip back. Extend the sternum forward. Bring your left arm straight up. That right leg, because of gravity, is going to want to lower. So you want to lift from the inner thigh, open the chest, and breathe. Deep, deep breaths. Exhale, both hands down. Bring your right foot to meet the left. Inhale, lengthen. Move your block over to where your left wrist is. Lift, or left hand. Lift that left foot, point the foot, drop that left hip. Keep the chest extending. Spin the internal thighs, the right one back, the inner left thigh up. And then bring that right arm straight up to the ceiling, making your twist. Resist gravity here with that left leg. So you've got to really firm up into the glutes. Exhale, both hands down. Lower that left foot to meet the right. Move the block. Separate your feet hips width apart. Slide your hands underneath the feet so you're standing directly onto the palms. Inhale, lengthen. Grip your quads. The inner thighs stretch back. Exhale, fold. Release the neck. Inhale, look up. Release the feet, hands to the hips, flat back to stand. Blood's going to drain down. You might feel high for a second. It goes away. Feet together. Palms at the heart. Inhale, arms reach. Exhale, fold. Inhale, look up. Exhale, step back, top of a push-up, lower. Inhale, upward dog. And exhale, downward facing dog. Take a breath. You're going to step your right foot forward, come down onto your left knee, extend the left toes back. I didn't teach this pose in the posture lab, but based on everything that we've done, and I'm always listening to my own body, I can feel like, ooh, I would love that stretch right now. Like after just working to contract the quadriceps, working the hamstrings as much as we are, this next stretch might feel like a relief. But let me think how I want to teach it. Go ahead and bring your You have a choice. It depends on the proportions of your body, the length of your arms towards your torso. Some of you are going to prefer to keep your right hand onto the floor to the inside of the right foot. You're going to bend the knee and grab your left foot. You can also take a strap around the left foot as well, and you're going to pull the heel towards the outer edge of the buttocks. I'll teach the hand placement of that left foot in a moment, because some of you are going to prefer to balance your forearm on the thigh. Notice right now my thumb is at the ball of the foot, my fingers are holding the top of the foot. I want to turn my elbow up to the ceiling. So notice my fingers are going to come up, and now I'm going to wrap around and I'm going to grab hold of the ball of the foot with my fingers. This pulls the shoulder back. So now I've got to internally rotate. I've got to draw the shoulder forward, internally rotate the left hip forward, pull the buttocks in, pull the tailbone in, then the heel towards the buttocks. Lift the chest. Some of you might want to take that right hand around and grab the foot with both hands on either side of the foot. Keep your tailbone in and then pull the heel in towards the buttocks. So there's 3 ways in which you can stretch your quadriceps here. For whatever reason, I can't keep my balance. So you push into that right foot, take the tailbone in, pull the heel in, keep the chest lifted, bend the knee a little deeper. Okay, and then release, hands to the floor, curl your back toes under, lift the knee, step back, downward facing dog. Step your left foot forward, come down onto the right knee. So, a couple of choices, that left hand down, you bend the right knee, grab the foot, or balance the forearm onto the thigh, and then you can either just hold the foot the way you are with your hand around the back of the foot, or thumb into the ball of the foot, then the fingers come up and around the toes, the elbows lift, elbow lifts, the shoulder rolls forward, you lift the chest, and then you pull that foot in, or you take both hands around, grab hold of the side of the foot, and then stretch, keeping the tailbone in. And then release, hands down, curl your toes under, right knee lifts, step back, downward facing dog. Take a deep breath. At the end of the exhale, jump through to sitting, and you're going to grab your block, bend your knees, roll all the way out until you're lying flat. I'm going to move this mic. Okay. Lying flat, you're going to take the block, bring it between your upper inner thighs. Feet are parallel. Inhale, lift your hips, push down into the feet, and you're going to roll your right shoulder under, then your left shoulder under, so the shoulder blades, the scapula, are pulling inward. You're going to lift the hips, squeeze the block, interlace your fingers, and push your interlaced fingers down into the floor. As you push into the feet, allow the rib cage to come closer towards your face, and take a few deep breaths here. So this is an internally rotated action. Back bends are that. So by doing the standing poses like crescent pose and warrior ones, all of that opens up the pelvis and helps to loosen into the lower back so that you can prepare for the back bends more safely. Exhale, release the hands, and then lower it down. Take a breath. Now, I'm not really going to be teaching the fundamentals of back bends for, some weeks down the line, but it doesn't mean we can't incorporate them into our flow practice. When you look at the totality of a flow practice arc, it has sun salute standing poses, back bends, forward bends, some kind of inversion and rest that makes up the complete cycle of Vinyasa, the balance of the yang to the yin. So we're going to do a couple of more. Inhale, come up into bridge. Either stay in bridge, or those of you who do have an Urdhva Dhanurasana practice, a wheel practice, you're going to rotate your hand position. So the fingertips are either near your ears or a little closer towards your shoulders. The elbows press in. You're going to inhale, come to the top of the head, squeeze the block, press the elbows in, and then straighten the arms and breathe. Keep the feet parallel, the tailbone lifting. And then come down to the top of the head and roll out and take a breath. If you're in bridge, you come out as well. And let's just do one more. So your choice, either come into bridge or you rotate your hands. Everybody, you're going to lift your hips. And if you're coming into wheel, you inhale to the top of the head, elbows in, straighten the arms, feet parallel, and breathe. Squeeze that block. And then everybody, lower. You're going to release the block. Squeeze the knees into your chest. Just drop your knees over to the left side. Let the shins drop down onto the ground. Use your arms to push down into the floor to rotate your chest. Keep your right shoulder down. Reach the right arm away. Look towards the right arm. Take a couple of deep breaths. When you do a lot of internally rotated poses, especially twists, the counter to bring your back into balance is to do forward bends and more passive twists. Like this, for example. So the practice often becomes an interesting dance of pose, counter pose. Go ahead and switch sides. Drop your knees over to the left. Make the turn in the torso. Look to the left shoulder. So very often we get addicted in our Vinyasa practice to more poses, moving faster, going deeper into it. But more and faster doesn't equal better or even healthier. In the past, when I was a younger teacher, I was really creative in my sequencing. But for no other reason than just to be creative. And also because I didn't have the experience or the skill to teach just a few poses on each side rather than 12 and keep it just as interesting or just as challenging or motivational. But you can strip your practice down to its barest components and make the practice incredibly challenging just by actually approaching each shape with more integration and integrity. Go ahead and squeeze your knees into your chest. Roll to your right side and inhale, come on up. Keep the knees bent and lift that spine up. Cross your left forearm in front of the shins. Bring your right hand behind you. You can even use a block here. Rotate your right hip forward so you're stabilizing the lower back. Inhale, lift, and then twist. Look out over the shoulder. You just don't want to let your back round here. So the higher you can elevate that hand, just the more liberated you're going to be able to come in the spine itself. Stretching out those muscles that have been worked. Exhale, face forward. Cross your right forearm in front of the left shins. Left hand behind you or on that block. Try not to collapse. Instead, lift and twist. Opening into the lung points. The left hip pulls forward. And then exhale, face forward. You're going to extend the legs straight out in front of you. You're going to reach underneath your buttocks and pull the flesh back. Pull the flesh back. The tops, the thighs roll in and down. The heels flex. Contract the quads, but keep the calves and the heels down. If you hyperextend, your heels will come up off the floor. So you want to make sure those heels stay down and then grip the quads. Hands onto the floor. Inhale, draw the sternum long. Then exhale, fold, grab what you can. Relax your head and neck. Inhale, look up. Walk your hands back. And you're going to come into a cross-legged position. Sit up tall. Elevate your pelvis if you need to. And we're going to do, before Shavasana, a few rounds of Nadi Shodhana just to really purify and center yourself. So thumb goes up against that right nostril. The index and the middle finger drop into the middle of your palm. The index finger, the pinky, hover. You're going to inhale through that left nostril. With the index finger, you're going to close off that left nostril. Both nostrils are then held for a moment. Then you release the right nostril with the thumb and you exhale through the right nostril. Then you inhale through the right nostril. And then you take your thumb, pinch the nostril, release the left, exhale through the left. Inhale through the left. Pinch, hold, and then release the thumb, exhale through the right. And I want you to continue this on your own, seeing what kind of a count you have from your exhales to your inhales. Noticing your own lung capacity, which breath is more difficult, whether it's taking the inhale all the way in or the exhale all the way out. Don't do any breath retention where you're holding the breath between. Just let it flow from one nostril to the other. Keep going. Just remembering that Nadi means channel, and there's 76,000 channels in our body. These channels distribute prana through the whole of the body. Help us to maintain physical, emotional, spiritual health and wellness, abundance, and energetic abundance. The nadis can get blocked, clogged, just like any other part of the body. Shodhana means purify. So in this breath exercise, you are purifying the channels of the body. This helps to rejuvenate the nervous system, ease anxiety, balances both sides of the brain, improves concentration and focus, preparing us for meditation. Couple more rounds. And then you're going to exhale finally through that left nostril. Release your hands onto your lap and inhale through both nostrils. Exhale through both nostrils. Take a moment here. And then take your meditation onto the floor and come into Shavasana. Allowing all the work that we've done today to settle and integrate. Twisting poses can increase the stimulation in the nervous system. So it's important that we take the time to let the spinal column find its way back into just its energetic possibility, where it's grounded, stable. Relax your eyes and your mouth, your jaw. Laying flat, draw the shoulders away from the neck. Extend the legs away from the lumbar spine, getting as comfortable as you can. Feel the weight of your body melt into the earth beneath you. Allowing yourself to be drawn down. Heavy and dense, like a weighted blanket laid over your body. Let everything go. And rest. attention back to your breath. Inhale, and reach your arms up over your head and get a good stretch here. And then squeeze your knees into your chest. Roll to your right side and press up into a seated position. Just one more time, sitting together for a moment. Feeling into the length of the spine. The sit bones firm on the floor. The top of the head extending. And then place your palms into prayer. And together we take another very deep breath in. Exhale it out through the mouth. And we close this practice by giving thanks to God for these bodies, these magnificent miracles of bone, blood, flesh, and beingness. We ask to honor our body, to strengthen it and stretch it mindfully with the intention to move the accumulated energy, to be released of tension, so that we can sit and be in communion with your grace. We ask for commitment, for discipline, for patience, and for acceptance. And we ask, may there be peace. And then together we offer this blessing with one single Om. Take a deep breath in. And lower your chin to your chest. Open your eyes and inhale. Come up. Thank you so much for class. Namaste. Thank you.